Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, we're finally getting some positive indications for us here in Florida, at least, about this storm.
You are right. This has been a very interesting forecast, seeing it evolve, and there have been some changes that will go in our favor. Bottom line is future tropical storm Sara will no longer be a high threat for a high impact system here in Florida. But it's going to come at the cost of Honduras, which is about to endure a humongous amount of rain, 30 to 40 inches with massive flooding, catastrophic mudslides, and unfortunately, what will likely be an inevitable loss of life as this very slow moving tropical depression, soon to be tropical storm, very slowly makes it west over the next, say, 3 days. In doing so, just pummels this region. We're looking at anywhere from 1 to a solid 3 days of rain coming out of this system for this area, which means an unrelenting north wind coming off of the Caribbean Sea being forced up mountain slopes that bring you up to about 8,000 to 9,000 feet above sea level. So it's called orographic lift. And as the system slowly drags from today through Sunday, traversing very neatly the northern coast of Honduras, it's going to be pushing in bands of rain all the while. But in interacting with that land, it'll keep this weak. So the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, it never strengthens beyond a tropical storm. There's a chance it briefly strengthens to a minimal hurricane, but that's a low chance. From there, what's left of it moves into Belize and then the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. Then emerging what's left of it into a relatively cooler Gulf of Mexico with much higher wind shear. Two forces which will keep whatever's left pretty weak. And then the final nail in the coffin for whatever's left of this will be the approach of a cold front that'll essentially absorb it into that cold front, eliminating a threat from an organized closed low tropical cyclone or tropical storm/hurricane situation for us. So another way to look at it is using our trusty European model. This will slowly traverse westward, bringing what is expected to be catastrophic flooding to parts of that Central America country, Honduras, into Belize, into Mexico. And then notice how there's no more circular lines here, those closed lines of pressure. They're called millibars. They're all in a straight orientation. That indicates that there won't be a discernible low left by the time it moves off the Yucatan Peninsula. There will just be lingering rain. A cold front picks up that rain and then ushers it toward Florida by Wednesday. And in doing so, we could certainly see some rounds of rain, maybe some nuisance flooding Wednesday with 1 to 3 inches falling across the region. Even a chance next week of an isolated tornado as this blows through. But beyond that, this trend is good. So let's go to our chart. This is the impact chart for actions. Future Sara, a very low threat. Now, if this was a higher threat and it was coming our way, we'd look at, not just where we are now at 6 to 7 days out, but we'd be talking about personal preparations 2 days out and eventually taking shelter once we're 6 hours away from landfall. But that does not look to be in the cards. I don't think we're going to get past this level of stay close to the forecast, because tomorrow, what do impacts mean to you? I mean, we're talking rain. So that is very good news for us. Hopefully the forecast holds. I don't see a reason why it would change from here in unless the system was kicked back into the Caribbean Sea unexpectedly and became a big hurricane. Then we'd be talking about something else. But the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center keeps us safer than not. That is for sure. Looks like a more just a rainy middle of the week next week, ushering in some cooler weather. Well, today is going to be a warm one here in Florida. Delightfully warm. 83 Orlando, 85 Ocala. We do have a cold front that will be coming in tomorrow morning, and in doing so, push in a couple of showers around dawn. That front right now is located back here in the Panhandle and up into Georgia, producing rain. It's going to make its way into the region overnight, so our south wind becomes a north wind tomorrow. There's going to be a band of a couple of showers around about 5 or 6 in the morning across Florida. That'll push away, and then we'll get into a north wind, resulting in an absolutely beautiful weekend ahead of the midweek rain on the way for next week. And by the way, next week's rain, the remnants of Sara, will be followed by even cooler weather for the weekend of November 23rd and 24th. So we've got some stellar weekends ahead. First off today, low 80s. Look for mid to upper 70s for Saturday and for Sunday. And then for next week, we've got the remnants of Sara. About a 50-50 shot at some rain and breezy conditions. We'll know more on those specific impacts of whatever's left of the system as we get closer to it. But Garrett, the news is good as far as the trends from the perspective of Florida. The news is bad as far as Honduras goes. There have been some historic hurricanes down there, like Hurricane Mitch, that resulted in a high loss of life. This doesn't look to be a Mitch, but there will be a lot of rain associated with it.
Let me ask you this, Brooks. What is it that kind of, I don't want to say that changed, but that kind of drew it further west in that way to kind of change those
Sure.
impacts for us. What has happened there that's kind of changing the impacts?
So there's an area of high pressure over the southeast that's going to move in this weekend. That's the cold front that's going to make it feel so great. So we're going to have this high pressure overhead. And essentially it's going a little bit farther east and a little bit farther south than earlier projections. So because we're going to have this beautiful weekend here in Florida, the clockwise flow around that high is going to push the system a little bit farther west. Previous forecasts suggested the high would be a little farther north, and that would allow this to escape the influence of that easterly flow from the high pressure zone. So that's going to be the function which eventually pushes all this rain into Honduras instead of letting it sit over the hot waters of the Caribbean where it could grow into a monster hurricane.
All right, Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
You got it. My pleasure. Thank you, Garrett.